Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's words spoken by Krishna and words spoken in glorification of Krishna. And here Prabhupada is saying that the transcendental value of this Krishna Katha can purify one and all from material contamination. Shri Krishna Katha ki. So and now we will chant this verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, Chapter 5, verse 32, and this is a well-known verse. Okay, everybody. Krishna, Varnam, Tusha Krishnam, Krishna Varnam, Tusha Krishnam, Sangopangastra, Parshadam, Sangopangastra Parshadam, Yagyai, Sankirtana, Prayar, Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar, Yajanti, Hi, Su, Medasa, Jantihi Sumedasa, Krishnavarnam Tusha Krishnam, Sangopanga Straparsadam, Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar, Yajantihi Sumedasa, Krishnavarnam Tusha Krishnam, Sangopanga Straparsadam, Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar, Yajantihi Sumedasa, Krishnavarnam Tusha Krishnam, Sangopanga Straparsadam, Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar, Yajantihi Sumedasa. Let's chant.
Krishnavanam Tusha Krishnam,
Krishnavanam Tusha Krishnam,
Sangopangashtabhashadam, Yagyaya Sankirtana Praya, Yajanti Sumedasa, Krishnavanam Tusha Krishnam, Sangopastra Parshadam, Yagye Sankirtana Praye, Yajanti Sumedasa, Krishnavanam Tusha Krishnam, Sangopangashtabhashadam, Yagye Sankirtana Praye, Yajanti Sumedasa.
Mataji's.
Krishna Varnam Tasham Krishna,
Krishnavanam Tusha Krishnam, Sangopangashtabhashadam,
Jati Sankirtana Praya,
Yagyaya Sankirtana Praya,
Yajanti
Sumedasa,
Krishnavarnam Tusha Krishnam,
Krishnavanam Tusha Krishnam,
Sangopangashtabhashadam, Yagyai Sankirtana Praye, Yajanti Sumedasa.
Krishnavarnam. Repeating the syllables Krishna. Tusha with a luster. Akrishnam, not black. Golden. Saanga, along with associates. Upaanga, servitors. Astra, weapons. Parsadam, confidential companions. Yagyai, by sacrifice. Sankirtana prayaya, consisting chiefly of congregational chanting. Yajanti, they worship. He, certainly. Sumedasa, intelligent persons. Translation. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. Please repeat. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. So this purport, of course, is in the 11th canto, and Srila Prabhupada didn't translate that. But where is it? Right at the very beginning of this. So this was translated, and this purport was given by Hridayananda Maharaj. And in the beginning of the purport, he says that he's basically quoted Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 3, verse 52, and I compared that, and apart from a slight introduction and conclusion, then he's copied pretty much the whole purport for this one. Wherever possible, where Prabhupada had given a purport somewhere else in his books, then the devotees would not assume to misguide that or not include that. They would immediately put it in there to always put the spiritual master forward. So teaching is that, we don't jump over just because Prabhupada didn't actually translate that here along with this. So here we are. This same verse is quoted by Krishnadas Kaviraj in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 3, verse 52. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, has given the following commentary on this verse. And this is Prabhupada's words. So, except for the last paragraph, then the rest of it's all Prabhupada's words. This text is from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.32. So Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this verse in his commentary on the Bhagavatam, known as the Krama Sandarbha, wherein he says that Lord Krishna also appears with a golden complexion. That golden Lord Krishna is Lord Chaitanya, who is worshipped by intelligent men. So men means women, and kids as well. Men means mankind. So we're all human beings, means mankind. Sometimes people get caught up with this. Why doesn't it say men and women? It includes. Just like cows, that includes bulls, doesn't it? Unless you're going to milk them. In this age, that golden Lord Krishna is Lord Chaitanya, is worshipped by intelligent men in this age. That is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by Gargamuni. He said that although the child Krishna was blackish, he also appears in 3 other colours, red, white, and yellow. He exhibited his white and red complexions in the Satya and Treta ages. Anybody know who they were? Satya and Treta, white and red. Ashura Pandit, do you know that one? In the previous yugas. And Satya Yuga, who was the Yuga avatar? Or who was the incarnation white in colour? He taught meditation. No, it wasn't Buddha. Sorry? Hans. Could be. Anyone else? Yeah, some form of hurry. What does Google say? Huh? Matsya? Yeah, I'm not sure when he appeared. Was that in Satya Yuga? Yeah, but that was more of a Leela avatar. Yuga avatar. The Togster, you know?
What colour?
The usual colour. Yeah, so does that mean that he was actually a swan? So it stated that Hamsa was that one, and then in red, in the
Google says white figures were, sorry.
Kapil.
Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narsimha, white, and in Satya Yuga, and then red in Treta Yuga, Vamana, Parashurama, Rama.
Okay, so I think Google's a chancer here. We're not going to take Google as the authority on this one. Do what? And for red in the Treta Yuga, does anyone know who that was? It's quite an obscure name. It's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. And there's nothing really said about him. Yajnavalkya. You've heard that one? Ram Lakshman, you were going to say something?
Sorry, I was going to say, like, I tried to find something in ISKCON dysentery. I don't know how much.
I think that's more of an authority than Google.
Sorry.
Okay, that's your homework for this afternoon. So this is in those colours. They appeared in those ages respectively. He did not exhibit the remaining colour yellow gold until he appeared as Lord Chaitanya, who is known as Gaura Hari. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that Krishna Varnam means Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Krishna Varnam and Krishna Chaitanya are equivalent. The name Krishna appears with both Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Krishna. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he always engages in describing Krishna and thus enjoying transcendental bliss by chanting and remembering his name and form. Lord Krishna himself appears as Lord Chaitanya to preach the highest gospel. Varnayati means utters or describes. Lord Chaitanya always chants the holy name of Krishna and describes it also, and because he is Krishna himself, whoever meets him will automatically chant the holy name of Krishna and later describe it to others. So if you've read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you'll see that sometimes this is the case. People would meet Lord Chaitanya, and often their encounter would simply be that Lord Chaitanya was chanting. He's always chanting, Kirtaniya Sadahari, always chanting the holy names. And when they hear him chanting, then they would become mad with love of God, and sometimes they'd wander back to their village and they'd think someone's become mad, they're just coming, they wouldn't stop chanting. So sometimes it's like that. And we witnessed on New Year's Eve in Edinburgh, for those who were able to go, it was quite an ecstatic situation where hundreds and hundreds of people, probably thousands, engaged in the chanting over the few hours that we were there. And sometimes the devotees don't realise how much time is passing by so quickly. You're there for a few hours, and then suddenly you realise you've got no energy to carry on. And just as you're ready to give up, some more people come along with enthusiasm to get involved, and you think, oh, we better just make the extra effort for them. And then, this is the nature of chanting the holy name, is that we can always find newer and newer efforts, newer energy. And the nature of the devotees is that they're compassionate, so when they see someone showing some interest, they want to cultivate that interest. You know, they've come along, they might be intoxicated, but that doesn't matter. Jaga and Madai, they were intoxicated, but they became great devotees also. So in Kali Yuga, everyone is a little Jaga and Madai, and the small time Jaga and Madai. And the holy name is there for their deliverance. So Lord Chaitanya himself, when the kirtan is there, then his mercy is also there. The Lord is present in his holy name. When we chant the holy names of the Lord, they're getting the Lord's association by that, hearing that chanting. They don't know what it is, but we know what it is, so we just continue to give them it. One thing which we could have had would be prasadam, so next year we could have a combined effort. Maybe more devotees can come and join the chanting party, and if some devotees who maybe can't go, they could make some prasadam for distribution. That also goes down really well. He injects one with transcendental Krishna consciousness, which merges the chanter in transcendental bliss. In all respects, therefore, he appears before everyone as Krishna, either by personality or by sound. So does anybody know that verse, that the incarnation of the Lord is Nam Avatar? The Lord descends in Kali Yuga as a holy name. Does anybody know that actual verse? Of course, do you know that one? Oh, that is one, yeah, it's another one. But there's another one, isn't there? Specifically to that, but that is there in that bhajan by Narottama Das Thakur, I think. Golokera Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. That the Lord has descended in Kali Yuga from Goloka Vrindavan Dham and as the Harinam. So the Sankirtan movement is actually non-different from the Lord. So therefore we are engaging in the pastimes of the Lord, which is our great benediction, our great fortune. Simply by seeing Lord Chaitanya, one at once remembers Lord Krishna. One may therefore accept him as Vishnu Tattva. In other words, Lord Chaitanya is Lord Krishna himself. The Prabhupada also says that when someone sees the devotees, they're reminded of Krishna. So when the devotees are out there, sometimes the devotees are out there in dhoti, tilak, sari, and it's easy to remember them. But even sometimes devotees are approached by people when they're dressed in karmi clothes. And because Krishna can direct them. But generally, if you want to find a policeman, you won't go looking for a plainclothes policeman, will you? You'll find someone in a uniform. So this is like the Vaikuntha uniform, and the devotees go out onto the street. They can be seen as devotees. And because we're actually so well known that even devotees, whatever they dress, people tend to know them. There's one time, in the early days, it was even before we had Krishna Bhavan, we were collecting in a place we called Passion Corner, which was the most passionate place in Glasgow at the time, the corner of Argyle Street and Union Street, which the chemist was there. And it seemed to be the place of pilgrimage for all the karmi shoppers. Everyone goes to Boots the Chemist to get their makeup or their medicines or whatever. And because we used to get so much trouble from the police, we would sometimes dress in karmi clothes. And someone came up to her and said, "Are you a Hare Krishna?" I said, "Yeah, how do you know?" And she says, "Because you guys have got no dress sense whatsoever. You got a pair of sandals, a pair of trousers which have nothing to do with a long coat and a woolly hat." And I said, "Oh, thank you very much, that's a compliment." And sometimes the devotees they're so free from the sin of vanity that they don't even own a mirror. Or maybe they keep a mirror just this big enough to see putting tilak on, isn't it? This is quite normal. But still, it's important that we remember we're representing Lord Chaitanya's movement when we go into the street. We don't have to exhibit a renunciation of vanity by looking like a sack of potatoes. We can still look tidy. I remember just before the marathon, I was in Hungary and Shiva Maharaj was giving a class. Devotees were asking, should we go out in dhoti, sari, karmi clothes, whatever? And they said, it doesn't matter as long as you're tidy, as long as you're dressed smartly, because you're representing Lord Chaitanya. So whatever you're going out in. And then says, what about tilak or not tilak? It says, if the tilak's nice and clean, then that's fine. But don't have it so it's like a little bit of something here and something there, and people think you've just had a painting accident or a bird's dropped something on you. You say that either tilak or no tilak. If tilak's there, make sure it's nice and clean and smart. So that way, it's we should be careful to represent, so that we get a good reputation, and we don't just, particularly we don't want to be just considered to be like some throwback from a hippie movement or something like that. Prabhupada may have contacted a lot of hippies in the beginning because he was so powerful he could convert them into Vaishnavas, but we're not searching out hippies, and we're not trying to be hippies. We're not attached to that type of mode of ignorance. So one may therefore accept him as Vishnu Tattva, in other words, Lord Chaitanya is Lord Krishna himself. Sangopangashtra Parsadam further indicates that Lord Chaitanya is Lord Krishna. His body is always decorated with ornaments of sandalwood and with sandalwood paste. By his super excellent beauty, he subdues all the people of the age. In other descents, the Lord sometimes used weapons to defeat the demoniac, but in this age, the Lord subdues them with the all-attractive figure of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that his beauty is his astra or weapon to subdue the demons. Because he is all attractive, it is to be understood that all the demigods lived with him as his companions. His acts were uncommon and his associates wonderful. When he propagated the Sankirtan movement, he attracted many great scholars and acharyas, especially in Bengal and Orissa. Lord Chaitanya is always accompanied by his best associates like Lord Nityananda, Advaita, Gadadhar, and Srivas, who are known as the Panchatattva. It's good. Glad to hear everyone's listening still. So just to go back a little bit here. So here it's saying that all the demigods lived with him as his companions. So does anybody know any demigods which were present in the Sankirtan movement with Lord Chaitanya at his time, 500 years ago? Yeah, Lord Brahma. Yeah. Does anybody know? Does anybody not know that? We do now. So Haridas Thakur, the Namacharya, he chanted, was it 3 times 64 rounds a day? And previously, we know the Brahma Vimohan Leela, right? What was that pastime? Brahma Vimohan Leela. Sorry? Steals the calves and the cows and he hides them in the cave, doesn't he? Well, steals the calves and the cowherd boys. And then he came back, we know the past time he came back and he seen that they were still there. And he went back to check, I thought I just stole them. So he went back to the cave, no, they were still in the cave. And then when he came back the second time, then the Lord had manifested himself as these calves and boys, but he manifested his Narayan forms from them all. And then Lord Brahma had realized he'd made a mistake, that this was his worshipful Lord Sri Krishna, who he hadn't recognized. So he was full of remorse, but at the same time he was ecstatic to get the Lord's darshan. And he wanted to make some prayers, but what happened? How did the Lord respond to his prayers? Ram Lakshman.
He was going with the Surabhi cow to...
That's Indra. That was the Govardhan. Yeah, that was another one. Atoksha.
He was, Krishna was a little bit annoyed because it was interfering with his pastimes with the cow voices. He wasn't really responding until Bhagavatam found him to finish saying God's.
Exactly. He actually remained silent. It says he didn't want to respond to Lord Brahma's prayers and acknowledge the Godhead aspect of him. He wanted to remain in that Leela, so he just kind of ignored them, like it wasn't happening. He remained silent. That was how he chose to stay in the Leela. But he accepted his prayers. So Lord Chaitanya appeared to him sometime later, and he said, in Kali Yuga, you will take part in my pastimes. You'll be known as Namacharya. You take birth in the family of Yavanas, and he took birth in the family of Muslims, a Mohammedan family, and he was so humble. He wasn't allowed into Jagannath temple, and he would just be happy to see the chakra and the flag on the top of the temple, consider that was darshan. So that's also for us to follow his example. We are not all, some of us are not allowed into the Jagannath temple, but we shouldn't be making some big protest outside with banners going, "Let us in." You know, we're not Malechas, we're not Yavanas, we're Vaishnavas. You know, we don't protest like that. We follow in footsteps of Haridas Thakur. And we say, you know, if it was good enough for him to be outside and accept that as his fate, then it should also apply to us. And he was so much favoured by this. It's interesting because although he had committed some offence by stealing the boys and the calves, then he also got some benediction. So the benediction was that he got the association of the Supreme Lord in his pastimes in Kali Yuga, and let's see. Here it says, this is from the Navadvip Mahatmya. When my pastimes become visible on earth, you will take birth in a Yavana's house. Your name will be Haridas Thakur, and you will be famous for your humility, and will be completely free from all pride. So this is this pastime of Brahma Vimohan Lila. Out of pride, he acted in some way, but when he realized he was dealing with his Lord, then his pride was neutralized. You will chant 300,000 names a day, and when you pass from this world, you will be seeing me. And at the end of the second 100 trillion years of your life, so apparently Lord Brahma's 50th, this is his 50th anniversary this year, but he's got another 50 years to go, which amount to 100 trillion years. So at the end of that, you will attain Navadvip Dham and be absorbed in eternal rasa. So these blessings of the Lord, humility, pridelessness, engaging in Kirtanasta Hari, and seeing the Lord at the time of the body, attainment of Krishna Prema, and the Lord's eternal abode of Navadvip Dham. So this is the benedictions that he got. And also any other demigods in the Lord's pastimes, or great personalities. There was spiritual master of the demigods, who's known as Vyaspati, and he took birth as Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who is known as the most prominent scholar in India at the time. And he spoke the Atmarama verse for 7 days. And at the end of the 7 days, and all his disciples were glorifying him, except for Lord Chaitanya, who was one of his students. And he says, did you not understand anything? Did you not hear what I said? Yes, I heard everything you said. Did you understand it? He says, I understand the verse, but what you said is nonsense. And he called him a fool, right? And then he revealed that he revealed his Sadbhuj form, his 600 form. You know, you imagine the Supreme Personality of Godhead calling you a fool, you'd probably feel it quite, to the core of your being. So Sarvabhauma was devastated, but then the Lord showed great mercy to him and showed him that actually I am Krishna, Rama also. Lord Chaitanya showed this form. And although Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was such a dry philosopher, great scholar, then people thought that he'd become a sentimentalist because he then took to the streets and he was chanting and dancing and encouraging even the Chandalas and the Yavanas to chant Hare Krishna. Because prior to that, if a lower caste shadow touched him, then he was very upset with them. His servants would beat him with a stick and he'd go back to the house to take a bath again. If you ever has anyone been to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house in Jagannath Puri. Have you been? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya says, so there's a pathway that leads from there underground, because he was head pujari of the temple, leads there to the temple, so he didn't even have to encounter any untouchables on the road there. That was the idea. But that has remained closed since he was saved by Lord Chaitanya, and now the only thing that resides down there are snakes. And nobody ventures into that tunnel any longer. So that would go from his house, and then it would come up, like a few hundred yards away, it would come up at the temple. And that's how much effort he was doing to avoid being contaminated by the lower castes. But then when he received the mercy of the Lord, then his indiscriminate sense of giving the Lord's mercy to everybody took prominence. And so Lord Shiva and Durga also, they met Lord Chaitanya, they were in the guise of a Brahmin couple. They met there and they had some conversations. And also, prior to the Lord's appearance, then Lord Shiva got a special darshan of Lord Chaitanya, and he was in ecstasy. And Parvati asked him, why are you so happy? And he revealed that he had darshan of the Kali Yuga avatar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then after some time, she also got that. And then Lord Chaitanya sprinkled the dust of his feet in her Simanta here. And that island became known as Simanta Dweep. That's where that pastime took place. So it's quite a long purport. We will not do all of it. But it's interesting to see that some of the other verses coming after that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where it's described that Krishna e dui varna sada yanramukhi atava krishnaki tino varna nejisuki. The two syllables Krishna are always in his mouth, or he constantly chants Krishna's name with great pleasure. There are two meanings of the words Krishna varna. Indeed, nothing else but Krishna issues from his mouth. If someone tries to describe him as being of blackish complexion, the next adjective, Twisa Akrishnam, immediately restricts him. His complexion is certainly not blackish. Indeed, he is not being blackish. It indicates that his complexion is yellow. So sometimes this happens in the Bhagavatam, that rather than just saying something straightforward, like it doesn't, some people say that it's not mentioned about Srimati Radharani specifically in the Bhagavatam, but there is one mentioned. Does anybody know where that is? There's a verse. Our shop is named after that verse.
I don't know the full verse. I know the verse Radhika.
Yeah, so Radharani is mentioned there, and there was a reason for that her name wasn't mentioned in the Bhagavatam. Sukadev Goswami did not go into mention her name. Does anybody know that reason?
Because he may got fainted when listening the name of that person.
I didn't quite hear that.
He may got fainted by
Yeah.
listening the Radha.
Exactly, yeah. That if he had to guide himself, because if he mentioned Srimati Radharani, then he wouldn't be able to continue with reciting the Bhagavatam because he would just be fainting in ecstasy. So sometimes the devotees, when describing the glories of the Lord, they'll be a bit guarded because, and there was occasions where Prabhupada, he went into some ecstasy, and the devotees just had kirtan in Prabhupada until Prabhupada came out of it again. Or there was one occasion where he came out of it and he says, just chant Hare Krishna. And that was it. Whereas we find some unscrupulous people, they want to make a show of their emotions. As soon as they feel a little something, they want to make sure did you check out that tear that came out during kirtan? And I stumbled a little bit, maybe I look at the hairs in my body standing on end. This is cheapness, isn't it? We're not interested in that. If you can get that, but you won't get Krishna. So that's your choice, isn't it? You can get the symptoms of ecstasy, but you don't actually get the ecstasy. Just like there was that example of the devotee who was fanning Krishna with the chamara, but he didn't like the ecstasy that was coming because it was interfering with his service. So, of course, we're so desperate for some pleasure in this bereft material world that we would be thinking, well, I wouldn't mind a bit of ecstasy, thanks. I'm suffering too much. But these examples there to show us that that is not the end result. Sometimes you may experience ecstasy, sometimes you may not, but the end result is for the Lord's ecstasy, for the Lord's pleasure. And if we have that in mind, and this is exactly the analogy of watering the root. As long as you water the root, the tree will always be nourished. So you may put water on the leaves, and they might look a bit shiny for a little while, but they won't get any nourishment. So we're not interested in that. We'll finish in a couple of minutes, and then we can have prasad. So, by performing the sacrifice of congregational chanting of the holy name, Leonard scholars in the age of Kali worship Lord Krishna, who is now non-blackish because of the great upsurge of the feelings of Srimati Radharani. He is the only worshipable deity for the Paramahamsas who have attained the highest stage of the fourth order sannyas. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya, show us his great causeless mercy. A couple other quick verses. One can vividly see his glowing complexion of molten gold, which dispel the darkness of ignorance. And we're actually so fortunate that Konitai Marpishashi have decided to come here and head up the pastimes, the Sankirtan movement. Sometimes we might think that we're head of this or head of that, but actually they're the head of everything, and we just get a chance to do some service. So we should always be grateful of the service we have and not become proud and think we've got some position. It's not about position. The sinful life of the living beings results from ignorance. To destroy that ignorance, he has brought various weapons, such as his plenary associates, his devotees, and the holy name. Any other weapons? His beauty, yeah. Any other weapons? I've also heard kartals and madungas as weapons. That doesn't mean to say you bang people in the head with them. Although we have seen devotees sometimes do things like that. Not exactly, but one time we were doing Harinam in a place called Bowness near Kincardine, small place, and these guys started throwing stones at us. So they were probably about maybe 50 yards away. So I thought I'll just play a trick on them. So obviously they hadn't looked like they'd never seen the likes of us before, and they were testing it out by throwing stones at us. So I just took a kind of martial arts position, and I took the kartals and I started swinging them like that, and then they ran off. We had no intention of throwing them, but we just started laughing amongst ourselves and carried on with the kirtan. The greatest ignorance consists of activities, whether religious or irreligious, that are opposed to devotional service. They are to be known as sins. So I'll just come back to that last one. So another weapon of the Lord is that he destroys the ignorance with knowledge. That is, in previous ages, he would sometimes destroy the demons with his weapons, the club or the chakra. The Lord can use anything as a weapon if he likes, even a blade of grass. And then, of course, the time of Jaga and Madai, then he decided, back to Vatsala, I don't care what promises I made, they've attacked Lord Nityananda, I'm summoning Sudarshan Chakra. So he shouted on Chakra, put his hand out, and Chakra was there, ready to do his service, to take off the heads of Jaga and Madai. And Lord Nityananda says, no, if you're going to kill them, at least you can't kill Jagai because he saved me. He says, oh, what's this? Tell me more. And he says, well, when Madai went to strike a second time, then Jagai stopped him. So then Lord Chaitanya immediately forgave him and took him into his embrace, which is such a great exhibition of mercy, showing us that even if one is such a sinner, if they repent and they do some redeeming act, then their past should be forgotten. And then Madai also thought he would do the same, but because he was the one who committed the offence the second time, then Lord Chaitanya told Lord Nityananda, don't accept him too easily or he'll think less of his offence. So that's another great lesson. That we don't just allow people to commit their offences again and again indefinitely without considering some kind of qualifying redeeming factor. And he did. Lord Chaitanya put him under the shelter of Lord Nityananda, and he was instructed to build a ghat, which became known as Madai Ghat, which you can still visit today. So that ignorance is considered, it's interesting here, the verse says, the greatest ignorance consists of activities, whether religious or irreligious, that are opposed to devotional service. They are to be known as sins, kalmasa. So sometimes in the name of religion, people are doing things which are ignoring the Yuga Dharma, devotional service to Lord Chaitanya. It's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita that if one does not accept Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they're to be known as an atheist. So that's quite a job for us, because then thankfully we've accepted, at least in part, to our limited capability, and as we become more purified in devotional service by attentive chanting, by devotional service in practice, by reading more, associating, etc., the practice of devotional service. But some people, they may go to the mosque, the mandir, the church, and they're worshipping God, but they're not accepting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as God, so they're, in one sense, they're actually an atheist. Because you could say, well, they actually worship God, how can they be atheists? Because they need to, our job is to actually let them know, who is that God you're worshipping? So Lord Chaitanya is not some sectarian God, he is the Supreme Lord. Now they're worshipping the same God, but they just don't know it. And sometimes we see, even in these other religions, that they have some devotion as well. So if we give them some more knowledge to add with their devotion, that would help. And they're also on a path which is going to take them closer and closer to actually worshipping in knowledge. So as long as they're not opposed to devotional service, and the 6 Goswamis, they were friendly with ruffians and the gentle. Raising his arms, chanting the holy name, and looking upon all with deep love, he drives away all sins and floods everyone with love of God. So the Lord is making it very easy for us, simply by this chanting, dancing, and taking prasad in a couple of minutes. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestow his curseless mercy upon us. His smiling glance at once drives away all the bereavements of the world, and his very words enliven the auspicious creepers of devotion by expanding their leaves. Taking shelter of his lotus feet invokes transcendental love of God at once. Anyone who looks upon his beautiful body or beautiful face becomes freed from all sins and obtains the wealth of love of Godhead. In the other incarnation, the Lord descended with armies and weapons, but in this incarnation, his soldiers are his plenty parts and associates. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always the most worshipful deity of the demigods, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, who come in the garb of ordinary men bearing love for him. He instructs his own pure devotion and service to his own devotees. Will he again be the object of my vision? So there's one bhajan, I can't remember which one it is, if anyone remembers the one, but in the translation, Prabhupada gives the translation that Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma were chanting and dancing, singing Hari Hari Bol. Which one is that? Is it Hari Hari Bifle? That's not that. Does anyone remember that? Who's our bhajan people here? There is one there. Yeah, that's the one it is. Hari Hari Bifle Janamagan Ainu. So there, even the demigods were taking part in the Lord's pastimes. And we're also getting the chance to take part in the Lord's pastimes. And this is what the whole point of this Hare Krishna movement is about, is to spread the glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to every town and village. And that falls on our heads to do that, in whatever way we can do to assist the movement, making some progress, making some advancement, then that's our great fortune. We'll just stop there. Anyone get any questions or comments?
Aradhita, the word came up. What does that mean? Aradhita, what's the meaning of that?
Aradhita. Could you get the context of that verse in the Bhagavatam? It refers to Radharani. So the word Aradhanana Sarvishu, so it means worshipful actually. It means to worship. And that topmost worshipper is Radharani. So there's verse Aradhanam Sarvishu Vishnu something Samshaya. So the question was, I think it was by Lord Parvati to Shiva. Parvati to Shiva, she says that what is the most worshipable object? And it says the most worshipable object is Tadiya, that which is related to Krishna or the devotees. So Krishna is pleased more when we serve the devotees than serving himself. And therefore we should have the mood of not discriminating, well, I'll serve that devotee because I don't like the way the one that way behaves, so you can get to the end of the prasad queue. If there's anything left, I'll think maybe I'll give you some. No, we don't make that discrimination. We may serve in different ways. Did you find that verse? I think it's 11th canto. But my understanding is that it means worshipping. Like aparada means to go against the worship. And funnily enough, it was one volunteer. She was a Sikh girl. She was living here as a volunteer for a few months, and she was helping us find a name for the shop, and she found that name in the Bhagavatam.
It's found, it's in the 10th canto.
10th canto, right. Do you want to read it out? Can you put it up here? And maybe it'll give the word for word. Yeah, just go back to the verse again, because, oh yeah. Okay, and then the word for word. Perfectly worshipped. So that's referring to Radharani, that of all the great devotees, she is considered to be the most perfect devotee, because she perfectly worships Krishna. Okay, any other questions? Okay, prasadam time. So thanks everybody for getting up so early. It's nice to see you all at Mangalarti today. It'd be nice if we could maybe do some Maha Mangalarti once a month. I was going to say once a week there, but I thought I better not give you a fright. What do you think? Is that something we could do once a month? We could all come together for Mangalarti. That'd be amazing. Fantastic. So we'll come back here for 10:30, and we'll continue with the Sankirtan Marathon Festival. We will give a talk, and then we'll go look through the scores, and we can hear some Sankirtan stories, share some of the nectar, and then we can have kirtan and then more prasad. Okay, thank you so much. ISKCON Guru Govinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Shri Konitai Mahaprashashi ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Priyat Madanga Transambik Distribution ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.